Now let's do the stories moving up across the internet today. Joining me is Joel Veitch from rathergood.com. Good to see you, Joel. Thanks for being with us. How police uncovered a website for cyber criminals.
Yeah, this is remarkable. This is an unassuming internet cafe in Wembley where an ex-pizza dispatch rider was running this, well, he was a mastermind of this criminal organisation. A website where fraudsters, people who've stolen credit card details, people who had viruses with which to attack and get money from websites, would all kind of meet and talk to each other, swap wares. To join the gang, you had to supply details of 100 stolen credit cards, which would then be reviewed like some kind of eBay purchase.
Extraordinary to think they were doing this in public, effectively.
Just in an internet cafe, or it was run from an internet cafe.
The growth of Chinese internet, no sign of slowing.
No, it's going incredibly quickly. More people got online in China over 2009 than the entire population of Germany. Just as Google's pulling out, this thing is, obviously enormous. The total take-up in China is less than a third of the population, so still relatively small. But of course, the Chinese population is so massive that it's a huge number of people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, tell us about this maths teacher who's created an unusual equation.
Yeah, this chap, why I don't have a girlfriend, he says, and he's used an equation normally used to work out the likelihood of finding extraterrestrial life to prove that it's incredibly unlikely he'll ever find the perfect woman. I hasten to point out that I think my wife disproves that with me. Obviously, I have a perfect marriage. Yes. It'll get me some brownie points when I get home.
Absolutely. Very simple formula.
But it's true, yes.
An unlikely fan of the Google phone. Who's this, or what's this?
Yeah, this is Wozniak from Apple. Obviously, one of the people who's responsible for the iPhone, saying he's picked himself up a Google phone, the famous iPhone killer, allegedly. He also still uses an iPhone as his primary phone, apparently. Why he's saying publicly that he's a fan of it, I honestly don't know.
He probably admires good technology.
Yes, I'm sure
pretty
that's
good
what
instruments, aren't they?
Yes.
Really. Which one have you got?
I'm an iPhone type, really.
Okay, that's labelled you. Right. Ricky Gervais thinks of Twitter. What does he think of Twitter?
He doesn't think very much of Twitter. No, I love Ricky Gervais. I also love Twitter, I have to say. It's quite easy to take a pop at Twitter, and you do kind of take his point. He said it's pointless and showing off, largely, unless you're a teenager, in which case it's a nice way to social network. He thinks it's a bit of a waste of time for adults and showing off for celebs. Take his point, but I don't think that's... I think he just doesn't get it.
Jonathan Ross, the two of them are spatting, aren't they, on Twitter?
Yes, evidently that's what it is,
Jonathan Ross, a big fan. Ricky Gervais suddenly thinks he's not such a fan. Oh, well, we'll see if that matters. OK, we'll join you again in Technology Unplugged a little bit later on this evening. Thank you for the moment. Now, first, the top tech buzz story of the week, and one topic has dominated all the blogs: Google's threat to withdraw from China because of cybersecurity concerns and censorship. Now, China has pretty much ignored the ultimatum, saying it only wants to work with web companies that follow its rules. Today, Microsoft has signalled that it won't be following Google's lead. Well, it's joining us to talk about the technology panel through our topics today: Joel Veitch from rathergood.com, Hermione Way from techfluff.tv, and Olly Mann from the Answer Me This podcast. Joel, what do you think Google are doing here? What's the strategy?
Well, essentially, this is a huge story, obviously. The story goes that very organised criminals have hacked over 20 very major firms. What they've been doing with Google is they've exploited the back door in, and they've been trying to find information on human rights activists within China, which could then be used to cause terrible trouble for these people personally. Google have finally thrown down the gauntlet and said, look, enough is enough. You remember the "Don't be evil" motto that they have, which people have been criticising them for dealing with China in the first place about. You can see what they're doing. Essentially, they're taking a stand and saying, this far and no further. We will not do this anymore. But in a sense,
Hermione, they're winding back, aren't they? Because they were criticised 4 years ago when they went into China and did the deal.
Well, Google really shouldn't have done the deal in the first place, to be honest with you. Yeah, well, it wasn't really fair, them offering China a censored version of their search engine. So I think now, they're regretting the decision, and I think they're quite right to disappear from China, personally.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to disappear, but that seems the likely outcome.
I think China's made them disappear now, because China has just said, well, if you don't comply, then you're out.
Yeah, but so far, Ollie, it's a war of words. Nobody's actually said to the Google offices, get out, and leave, have they?
Yeah, but I don't think on Google's part this is a real ultimatum, actually. I don't think they ever expected China to say, oh, OK, we'll change our human rights policy. I think Google realised, as Hermione was saying, that actually maybe this whole foray into China might have been a bit of a mistake. That there was always an inherent incompatibility between "don't be evil" and doing business in China in that way, offering censored search. And Google are trying to find a way of getting out of this. And by issuing this very high-profile ultimatum, the White House are talking about it on TV, it's a kind of acceptable way for them to say, oh, OK, we're leaving then. But you're right. I mean, it's really difficult for them to be there in the first place, particularly as, think how people use Google. They're actually inevitably, I mean, I'm not making a direct allegation here, but inevitably, they will have been effectively assisting the Chinese government in finding people that speak out against them, because people use Google to find what people are saying.
Yeah, there's a bottom line to be thought about here, though, Joel. I mean, they've only got to a third of the market, didn't they? They're not, by no means the biggest search engine in China, but hang on, a third of the Chinese market is a massive market to have.
Yeah. I mean, this is one thing that's easy to forget from here, is that Google is not a major player in China in the way it is here in the Western world. Baidu, a major search engine there, is completely in cahoots with the Chinese government. As the guys were saying, I mean, essentially, it doesn't appear to be possible to offer a genuine search service in China. Clearly, Google have, originally, if you look at what they were trying to do, or said they were trying to do, they were saying, we are trying to improve access to information in China within the framework of what we can actually do. And they've come to the conclusion that that is being subverted and used in an anti-human rights way, and clearly they've decided they can't do it.
Let's just focus on what may or may not be going with the sort of nefarious attacks and how it relates to you and me. The attacks on Google does raise the issue, doesn't it, of cybersecurity for everyone, all of us. Well, earlier today, I spoke to an expert in protecting websites from attack. David Bosworth says that nowadays attackers are going for your software as much as your hardware.
People's attention, or the hackers' attention, has moved from infrastructure attacks, which is essentially just trying to get in through your firewall to your computer and then do something, to application-based attacks. And the application-based attacks are really absolutely focused on your web page and being able to enter information into your web page that makes your web application behave badly. And by behave badly, we mean return data that you wouldn't want it to return, so that could be credit card information, user information, allowing people from outside to change your data, so come in, for example, and change your catalogue prices so that your televisions are now £1 ago rather than £500 ago. And then the third area is that more and more they're being used to place malware on your site so that your visitors then come along and actually have that downloaded onto their PC.
It is sinister, these nature of cyber attacks, isn't it, Olly? And of course, the whole point about it, it goes on probably without your knowledge.
Well, this is it, and the enemy of the state sci-fi future has come to pass. Your online identity is your identity. We saw in that scandal a few months ago when people were, the Hotmail passwords got leaked. People were using very basic words as their password, things like pass and their name. If you get one person's password for one site, you might be able to log into their bank account, you might be able to change their details on their Amazon account and buy thousands of pounds worth of home equipment. So, yeah, of course, if you get any identity information, even from an email, even if it looks innocuous, it can give you power for all sorts of things.
And of course, we tend to think, like all the other scams, it won't happen to us, or it won't happen to our business. Exactly,
but we're all at a risk, and I mean, even offline, people can get as much information as they want these days. It's so easy to tap a phone, for example. So information's out there in the public domain.
Okay, we'll leave it there for a moment.